Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday chat, the Be Strong Group Tuesday chat. I am Brenda Green, founder of the Be Strong Group. My husband and I founded this nonprofit in honor of our son, Braden, who has sickle cell disease. And our mission is to spread awareness of sickle cell disease through education, advocacy, and empowerment. And we decided to take this opportunity during the virtual time to talk about topics that are important to those with sickle cell disease as well as their caregivers. And a lot of times we found that a lot of the topics that we've been discussing is really applicable to a lot of people. Um, and then, we want to share some information that could help our community to learn more about sickle cell disease because that's our mission to spread awareness. And I am so excited about tonight, special guest. Um, and if you've talked to me before and I talk about sickle cell warriors, I said they are the most amazing people. You'll be inspired. And a lot of times, you know, I- through our journey with Braden, I've met a lot of sickle cell warriors and I listen to their stories and it's like, why haven't I heard your story? People need to hear it and understand and be inspired and just hear your words. So, what best way to learn about sickle cell disease and the challenges and the life that they live? What's the best way to do it than to hear it from themselves, from the warriors themselves? So, I'm so excited to have uh, right now two adult sickle cell warriors with us, and I want you to welcome them. So, we have Gloria and we have Mario. Hey, Gloria and Mario.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, welcome to our Tuesday chat. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to talk to those who are listening right now because both of you I've met and you have amazing, powerful stories. And I want you to share. I want you to join me in educating our community about sickle cell disease. And for those of you who are listening, listen to these stories. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, the comment area, and we'll pose them to our warriors tonight. But we're going to have a discussion, and I want them to share their stories with you so that we all can learn. So I know I'm not going to do a lot of rambling because y'all know I can talk, but we're going to have a conversation tonight. But we're going to get this started by having Gloria and Mario introduce themselves, and then we'll just have a discussion after that. Gloria, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
Um, my name is Gloria. I am 47 years old, and I was diagnosed with sickle cell when I was 8 years old.
Hmm.
And I have a son. I have sickle cell SS, and I have a son that's 7 years old, and he has sickle cell SS. Now, if you do the math, that tells you that I didn't have my son until I was 40 years old. So, a lot of you warriors out there, I was told my whole life not to have children because of this, but it's possible. It's very much possible. Even though he has sickle cell, you know, we still live our normal lives. So it's definitely very possible to have a child with sickle cell disease.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for again. Thank you for being here, Gloria, and sharing your story. And Gloria is from right here in South Carolina, so she's one of our
I'm
local.
I'm actually from North Carolina, but I'm in South Carolina.
You're in South, yeah, you're right here. But she's from North Carolina. You claim it, okay? Mario, Mario, you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, good evening. My name is Mario Jenkins. I'm 48 years old. I have sickle cell beta thalassemia. Um, I'm a father of two kids. They just have the trait, though, thank goodness. And, I'm an advocate for sickle cell disease, and I've been dealing with it since I was about 3 years old. That's when my parents first discovered, that I had something wrong and tried to get I guess we'll go through that story later, but that's when they first discovered something wrong and tried to find out what was going on with their son. So we'll get into that later, but good evening.
Thank you, Mario. And you know, Mario mentioned, as well as Gloria, Mario mentioned his family found out when he was 3, and Gloria mentioned she was 8 years old when she found out. Um, Fortunately, today, with the newborn screening becoming standardized throughout the country, you know, families are being informed at the
Very important.
shortly after hospital. Yeah, early enough so we can know. So that's a good thing. You don't have to guess why your child is suffering in this country, in
Right.
the United
And I was
States.
just I was very happy when I didn't even know that until I had my son, and that was in 2014. I didn't even know they were screening babies at the time, but me born in 74, they had no idea what I had for years. I would just be going to the emergency room, crying all the time, in pain all the time, and nobody never knew what was wrong with me.
Wow. Wow. So Gloria, okay, let's just back up. Let's talk about your childhood. Is there a moment or a time um that stood out to you, something that happened, well, sickle cell complications, sickle cell wise, that you just remember to this day as a child?
Um, I was just in the hospital a lot. Like I was in the hospital like every other month. It seems like I would go outside and I would jump rope and it'll throw me into a crisis.
Wow.
It was just that simple. But when I got older, I actually became a cheerleader.
Hmm.
And that's like kind of not heard of back in the day when we had, having sickle cell, because it was so much of the activity could throw you into a crisis. Not saying I wasn't sick, but I still did it for 5 years. And they even wrote an article about it. But that's pretty much what I can remember as far as like childhood. I was sick a lot. I've had a few blood transfusions. But other than that, I had a really good childhood.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, that's good for you to even say it like that. Other than that, you had a good childhood,
Yeah,
with all the hospitalizations. I mean, you can say that. I think that adds to when I tell people how amazing warriors are, how strong you all are. Um, that that shows that that's true.
right.
Mario, is there anything that a moment you want to share that kind of sticks out? I mean, it could be a time where it got really, really scary for you and or your parents at the time.
Um, same Gloria. During that time, I stayed a lot in the hospital. Um, if there was one time, I guess that was a, a point for me was I was 16 and I was home with the crisis and I was home by myself. I think my mom was going to the store or something, and we lived. My grandma was gone. We all stayed kind of close back in Maryland, so we were all together. But nobody was around but me at that time, and something happened, and I just blanked out. My mom came home and found me at the threshold of the door. And from that point, she called for help, and my cousin came and got me, and they went to the hospital, and to come to find out, I had a clot in my lung,
Wow.
and I passed out, and so from there I went, to Baltimore up to the hospital where I stayed probably about 4 weeks, and that's when I got my transfusion. Um, I went there, and they didn't have my blood type,
Oh, wow.
and it was I guess rare to them at that point, and so my grandfather, I guess everybody in my family went and just gave blood just to see. And my grandfather was a match, and he ended up being my directed donor for that time. And I made it through that. And, the doctors told me, if I didn't get, found within the next couple of minutes, hours or whatever, I might not be here today. So, but they brought me back and I'm still here because of what they done. And, And thanks for that transfusion, I made it out of that serious crutch that I was in at that time.
Wow. And both of you already mentioned receiving blood transfusions. And I think we all know that there isn't a cure that's safe for everyone with sickle cell disease. So it's important. Blood transfusions and exchanges are important means of treatment for those with sickle cell disease, especially when you get in a have a health crisis or a pain crisis or some type of complications. It's important to have that blood available to get you through that. So I know
I
that
know that
we all
we
are
all are.
um, advocates when it comes to blood donations, right? And I know Mario, you actually, I guess you can start telling your story as to your advocacy when it comes to donating blood.
Well, I am also an employee for the American Red Cross. I've been there for 20 years, and ever since I've been there, I've realized the importance of what the American Red Cross does for sickle cell patients, and and that's the fact why I've been there so long. And recently, me along with Brenda, Miss Yvonne Donald from the James R. Clark Sickle Cell Foundation, and so many more doctors and advocates from everywhere have been pushing an initiative to make sure that we try to get more African American donors into the American Red Cross to donate, or anywhere in particular where their blood banks are. Um, there is a very big shortage of African American donors, which means there are a big shortage of units and stuff that sickle cell patients can use. And so right now, our initiative is to try to go to college campuses, and anywhere where we can, churches, anywhere where we can find African Americans and talk to them about donating and try to set up blood drives. And so far, we have been pretty successful. So I hope that we can keep it going, and that's part of my give back to people with the sickle cell and everything else. So I'm proud I can do that every day.
And thank you, Mario, for doing that because I think it adds a layer of authenticity, however I could say that. Some realness to sharing your story and understanding from the receiving end how important that is to for people to donate blood. And even from our perspective, because Braden has received a life-saving blood donation, so that's why we push very hard. And I'm going to add a plug again at the end, but we are hosting our fourth blood drive of the year on December 28th. I'll be sharing that link soon, and for everybody to go ahead and sign up. But whenever you can donate, just donate blood, and we really need it, and all of us
All of us
can
can.
attest to the need for blood donation. But let's talk more to you guys. Triggers. I know both of you mentioned about multiple hospitalizations when you were growing up, but is there one trigger that stood out with you, whether it's being too cold or being too hot or being stressed? Is there one thing that definitely that if you did or incur, you're gonna have some issues? Who wants to go first? And I'm gonna mute so we won't have a Gloria, Mario.
I'll go first. As far as one big one, I would just have to say change in weather. There are a few triggers that I have, and some of my family members tell me that I have. But weather is one. When, like right now, when the weather's starting to drop and change, that's going to affect me some. So I gotta kind of dress accordingly. I got to put a coat on. Even though it's going to be 90 degrees in the afternoon, I got to wear a jacket in the morning. And I can't play around with the weather. Because if so, then I'm at work probably rubbing my elbows or something. So I I try to make sure that I stay okay with the weather. In the summertime, it's all about not going outside and dehydrating myself in the heat. That's usually the worst. That's the worst here. But growing up in Maryland, it was the winter time, and so I was so glad to come to Benedict and go here in the warmth. But the heat is kind of bad too. So you got to make sure that you're not out there a lot. So that's my major trigger right there.
Okay, Gloria, how about you?
Just like Mario, in the summertime, you can't catch me outside. But I have two big triggers: stress and cold weather. And I try not to stress out, but sometimes it's just, definitely when you have a son in the hospital, the stress is up to here. So I definitely try not to stress, but cold weather is starting to get cold in the morning times when I have to take him to school. I'm definitely feeling that. So mine is basically cold weather and stress.
So I know
So
you
I know
mentioned, I know you mentioned your son has sickle cell, so stress when it comes to your son being sick and trust, and I know that perspective of stress. But how do you manage that? As far as is there is there a time where maybe both of you are not feeling the best? Has that occurred anytime?
Times where he was in the hospital on the third or fourth floor, and I'm in the emergency room to the bottom floor because between the stress and them keeping the hospital so cold. Like, I don't leave my son. If he's in the hospital for 7-10 days, I may leave for an hour for 7 to 10 days. Like, I don't leave him at all. But the coldness that they keep in the hospital has thrown me into more than one crisis where I had to end up going to the emergency room the same time he was in the hospital. Got out of the hospital, I had to go get treatment from the sickle cell clinic.
Oh wow.
So that has definitely happened to me more than one time. But thank God I have a cousin that is wonderful, and she's like a mother to him. So when I'm in the ER or having to go get treatment, she takes care of him.
Yeah, and having that support system is so important. And I'm gl- I'm glad you said that, your cousin and support system. We're gonna come back to that, but I want to ask Mario. I know you say your baby. I'm sorry, they're all our babies. Okay, so they're gonna be babies tonight. Your babies have the trait. Um, has there been a time where they've seen or witnessed you not feeling well or maybe even hospitalized?
Yeah. I would say starting 2 years ago, I had a real bad crisis each year. It was this year and last year, 2020. Right before COVID started, I got sick down in Charleston, and I was down with my wife at a dinner and thing like that, and ended up getting sick. And so I had to go down and admit myself in the emergency room, and they decided to keep me. And that was the first time that my son saw me in there, and my daughter. So yeah, they've seen me not at my best and pretty sick. And I had another major crisis around about the same time as this year as I did last year, and they kind of caught me right at the beginning of it where it was real terrible, and I just couldn't do much of anything. And you know, they try to find out. My daughter understands; she's 21, so she's seen dad sick before, but my 7-year-old, he really didn't understand it, and he was trying to wonder why dad was feeling the way he was. So but he knows that I had sickle cell, and he's seen dad not at his best and not feeling well. But those times was real bad, and kind of kind of messed with him a little bit, I think. So, but he's okay. As long as dad turned back okay, he was fine and good to go.
Yeah, and that has to be difficult as well because we feel like we're the ones supposed to be taking care of our babies. Um, but then that's another part of it. We have to make sure they understand. Even you mentioned before, like we said, they have the trait. They have to understand about their situations and be educated on their situation as well before they start. Well, your son has plenty of years, and so does your 21-year-old daughter. Well, before they start families and having children or whatever. But um, that's an important part of it because we just want to be able to support our kids, and that can add a whole nother level of stress, in which for you all could be a major trigger. um, and Gloria mentioned support system. Let's get to that and how important having a strong support system is. You guys just want to talk about that?
Yeah,
Do you want me to
yeah,
go?
Yeah, you go.
yeah, I'm fine. We I have a pretty good one, and and it's always been that way since childhood. Like I think where I came up, I was the only person around my family that was the way I was, and so and nobody really knew what was going on with sickle cell at the time. All they knew was that Mario cried a lot and he was sick a lot. So all of my aunts and aunties and cousins and grandmas, they took care of me. My mom and my dad, everybody took care of me. I got a thing, with me when I have a crisis that I need people to rub whatever hurts, and I don't want them to stop. So that's just one thing. And I got cousins that'll tell you to this day that they didn't sit there for hours on end. My grandma and them, my mama, hours on end, and they never complain. And and thank goodness I got my wife now, and she's now that person, and she doesn't complain either. She may hide for a second, but she comes back and make sure that I'm okay. But that I can get a little aggravating with it. That's something that I do know. But but they're always there, and so no matter what goes on, like my family, they bring me my hydrations and stuff when I'm home, and everybody comes by, check on me, make sure I'm eating and everything. And the same family that I had in Maryland kind of gravitated down here beside my mom's side. And so I still got that support system, even though, I'm married and got my own family and everything. But as soon as they know I'm sick, everybody's ready to come check on me. So, I'm glad I got them.
Oh, that's real. That's real good. And it's important to have that support, especially from your family. Um, Gloria, did you want to share on anything?
I will say, being with it's just me and my son, my support is limited. I have my cousin, but she also has 3 kids, but she'll stop everything if I'm sick or if my son is sick. But I'm not where I was born, and I only have my cousin here. She's the only family that I have in South Carolina. But when I was back home, I had my mom, my aunt, my cousins, stuff like that, my brother. But here is very limited as far as support, because I really just have her, and she's pulled in so many different directions sometimes that I will just be sick sometimes and won't even contact her, because you hate to bother people. Sometimes it just gets to be too much and you just don't want to bother them, you know? So I will say here I have her, but it's very limited.
Yeah, and that's where for those who don't have that, whether it's a huge family, a large support system, like you're away from your hometown, your home state. But that's where I feel we should come together as a advocacy group to be able to support each other, and that's one of the initiatives that we have is to provide support, to be that person to say, okay, Gloria, how you doing today? Send a text. What do you need? How can we support? That's what we want to do. And if y'all don't mind, just early on in our after Braden was diagnosed, for a while I didn't share his story. I felt embarrassed and guilty, and I felt alone because I didn't know any other parents of children with sickle cell disease at that time for a lot of years when he was growing up. And it wasn't until I started sharing and reaching out that I found it. And you can find some comfort or um, in sharing with people who can understand and relate to your situation. So having support is important, even support from people who are not your blood. Having support is important. So thank y'all for sharing. And go ahead.
I just want to touch on what you just said about the embarrassment part. My whole life growing up, I was the only person in my family that had sickle cell. I was the only one in my school for 12 years, pretty much, that had sickle cell. And I was embarrassed. I didn't, a lot of people didn't even know, a lot of people in my adult life don't even know that I have it. I'm very private. And so I was just really, really embarrassed. And I was teased a lot in school because I was always sick and I was always out of school. And I didn't start really talking about sickle cell until my son was born. And so I'm so glad that I started talking about it, because I did meet you, when it comes to having someone to speak with that is basically going through the same thing I'm going through with a child with sickle cell. So I just encourage people to not be embarrassed about it. It's what we have, it's what we were born with. And, you just have to get through it. You just got to take one day at a time.
And you see that message from one of our people, warrior moms, Gloria. You definitely have your warrior moms here. So that's a message. And I know another thing, and you guys, I'm beginning to ask questions that I'm being selfish. You are talking to a caregiver. You are two warriors talking to a caregiver of a sickle cell warrior. I don't have sickle cell. So a lot of times, well, I don't know how Braden feels. You know, even I don't know pain wise. I don't know how that feel. Um, but that's why I'm so glad that I've met you all and I met other adult warriors, because you can kind of give me some insight in what's going on and help me to be a better advocate for him. So if each one of you can just share something that could benefit or help a caregiver be a better caregiver or advocate for their child, as far as understanding what it's like from that child's perspective. So I know guys got to reach way back to when you were a child. Braden's 15, but just give something. What would you recommend, or some words of support or for your caregivers out there?
Well, I'll start because my mom tells me that I still act the same. So, so I was one of those ones who never really wanted to say that I felt bad. And I don't know if Braden's like that too, but most of the time you'd be like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, yeah, I'm fine.
Good.
You don't look fine. I'm okay, but my mom used to have this thing with my eyes that she used to see. And she used to be like, "Your eyes don't look right today, either they're super yellow," or she was like, "You feel bad." I'm like, no, but probably a couple of hours down the road or a day or two, I'm coming towards telling her I need to go to the doctor or something. And she was like, "I seen that last week, but you should have said something then we could have went early, But I know you keep an eye on him because I just know that's what you do, and for a caregiver, that's basically all you can do. You can look at them and just gauge how they feel. You know how he feels when he's at his best, and when he's come home from school and he's a little sluggish and he ain't at his best, and you're like, "How your day?" Okay, yeah, yeah. So it's the same thing, and it's just something that because we don't want you guys to worry a lot either, because we know we're sick all the time. And and I know I used to put a strain on my mom. I put a strain on everybody, and I still go to doing stuff when I need to sit down. I just had to. My whole squad at work sent me home about a couple weeks ago because they told me you're not yourself in here, and I'm like, I'm fine, and they're like, no, you're not. And I'm but I wasn't at the point where I felt like I needed to take a seat, and because if I do that every time I hear an ache or pain, I wouldn't get anything done. So I got to power through some of it, and nobody wants me to, and I think I'm the only one who keeps doing it, and I get fussed at about it. But just make sure he's just not overdoing it, because he will tell you that he's fine and he won't be. But I'm pretty sure that you keep an eye on him to make sure that he's staying, and not hurting himself too bad or getting too far gone. So, just always watch him. And as a caregiver, that's about all you can do until we ring the alarm and tell you that we're not right. And then we go from there. But, just keep talking to them and making sure that they're okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'm sure Gloria can attest to that. As a caregiver herself, and I sounded like your mama, Mario, because I could see it in the eyes. I could just look at them and tell at times. And I'll say the same thing. You should have told me earlier so we could stay on top of it or address it early. But Gloria, we're not asking for the caregiver perspective. So right now, go back, and as a sickle cell warrior, what's something you would like to share with caregivers? And I'm going to prevent some echoing, I'm going to mute myself.
I mean, is when I was a child. I think it's the same way with my mom. My mom can look at my eyes and say, you need to drink more water, or you need to do this or that. And I will say that your child. You have a mother's intuition. Your child. You can tell when they're not feeling good. And even until today, I'm 47 years old, and my mom can listen to my voice and say, you're sick. There's something wrong with you. And she's 4 hours away. So a mother knows, like you're in tune with your child. So trust me when you can tell that he doesn't feel good. But one thing about us warriors, we pretend to feel well just so we won't have to bother you, or just so we don't have to, take you out of work. Because my mom has gotten fired more than one time for me being sick, and she had to leave her job. So it's just, I don't know. I think as a child, I think I waited until I got too bad in order for it to go to the hospital. But sometimes it can come on so quickly. So let's just say Braden was watching TV, and in 5 minutes he's so sick that he can't walk. It happens just that quick. So just keep an eye on, which I know you do. You got a whole foundation for him, so I know you keep an eye on him. We talk, so that's all you really can do. Your child.
Absolutely. And I know both of you mentioned about not wanting to be a burden or a bother, and that's one thing I know that he feels the same way too. And I'm like, you're my baby. You're my child. I'm responsible for making sure you're okay. So I wish he wouldn't feel that way, but I'm sure it's inevitable. That just speaks as well to you guys' resilience, you know, um, faking feeling well. not ever faking sick, but pretending to feel well when you don't. So that just speaks on your resiliency, your strength. And you guys amaze me, y'all know. And y'all know I get mushy, but we got a question in the comment, and I'm gonna put it on the screen. I'm gonna read it, Gloria. But one of our listeners, she's saying, what pieces of advice and best practices would you give to a younger warrior that is dealing with challenges of sickle cell disease from a physical, medical, and mental, social perspective? That's a different perspectives. Mario, you want to go first?
Yeah, I go first. Because I kind of deal with this still. Um, First, from like a physical and everything. I always just say, even though we're young and everything, we still gotta pay attention to how we eat and stuff, because I think that stuff still affects like our blood and everything. Um, Talk to your hematologists and your family care physicians. Make sure they got the right medicines that work for your blood type to help bring up your hemoglobin, and and that stuff that you and your mom can talk about, if see if it's working for you, because we're the ones who knows once we're getting the medicine. But we're talking to the doctors, and maybe they see something else, and they can maybe try something that that may be out there now that can benefit you. Just keep you know regular tabs with your doctors and everything. The mental part of the aspect is something that's tough. um, I will say, every time I get a bad crisis, I get depressed bad, very bad, to the point where I'm like, I'm so tired of it. 48 years and I'm still doing the same, and I don't look at the side like, well, it's still 48 years at that point. I'm looking like, man, I'm still sick, and it's a rough drag for me, so, and that's usually the first couple days or whatever, until I start feeling a little bit more like myself. And and that's, you're gonna go through that, so sometimes it's good to have somebody beside you to, pick those spirits up during that time, you know, shake a little bit of that off you so that you can try to heal without feeling sad about it, But, it happens. It happens all the time. And, I'm a person for it. I try to stay, happy for, a lot of hours in my day, but when I'm not feeling good and my attitude changes, and everybody knows, they were like, oh, you acting stink today. You must be not feel good today. And I'm like, yeah, and, so, it's just certain things that come up with it. And, and a little depression is part of it. But you just gotta, try to know, you gotta always have that positive point that you're gonna keep living and doing what you need to do. And it's just one thing that we got to get through. We got through 1,000 of them before. This is just one more we got to push on through. And as far as social with today with kids, it's so strange, back like when, Gloria said back in our day, we didn't have all this other stuff. So all our friends and kids in school knew that you just weren't there. And I had particularly probably 4 friends that I knew from elementary school that I have to this day that knew what was, really wrong with Mario. And those were the ones I kept by me. Those were the ones that I didn't care about people saying, oh, you just come to school for 2 months and grad, and then you pass class, where you been, and then they tease you not being there, but I had 4 guys that was, there with me, so they were the ones that I considered my friends. I didn't care about what the rest of them said, even though, they tease you a lot, so, if that happens, you just got to find core friends and stuff to stick with you during that time. It's harder today though, but there are always friends that you can find that'll have your support. And when I got to college, I got my other 4, and and I'm solidified now. Those guys took care of me during Benedict times, and during those years when I was laying in my dorm room or something, they took care of me. So, and those are my brothers to this day. So, so you just got to find those people that are there for you, and learn that they're there for you, and, and not just, there to find out what's going on and find, you just know that they're there to take care of you and make sure that you're fine. And once you find that core group of people, your social, outlook on everything will be just fine. You'll live the life that you're supposed to live.
Oh, that's some good feedback, Mario. Thank you for that. Gloria, do you have anything you want to share on that question?
Just a couple of things. Um, my advice for any warrior is to drink, 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 stay hydrated as much as possible. You don't realize how much it will help you in order to stay hydrated. Sometimes, like when I got sick, I didn't want to drink at all. I didn't want nothing to drink, and I would dehydrate myself most of the time, and that would another thing that would have to make me go to the hospital. So dehydration and sickle cell is the worst thing that could happen to you. So you need to drink as much as possible. I know when you go to the hospital, they're going to give you IVs. Drink on top of that, because it's only going to help your blood cells, and you don't think about that at the time. Always keep your doctor's appointments, because doing your blood work, they can catch things and all of these little things that you can't actually feel. I know there's so many things my son went to the hospital for. It was internal. He wasn't feeling pain. It was internal. So you have to continue to make sure you make your doctor's appointments. As far as socially, I kept to myself a lot, and I still do. And I think that has everything to do with having sickle cell. Mm-hmm. I flake sometimes because I'm not feeling well, and I hate to make appointments. I hate to buy things, advance tickets to things, because I never know how I'm gonna feel. So socially it's tough, very tough. Mentally, as far as me, like Mario said, you get to asking yourself why. Like, why me? Why am I the only one with this? But that's just the thing that's gonna happen regardless. It's gonna go through your head for anybody. But that's not the worst thing, So hydrate, doctor's appointments. Socially, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out.
Okay. And I know you said hydrate. Can you say that a little bit louder so someone in the background here can overhear you?
Definitely hydrate. Yes. Drink your water. I don't leave the house without 2 bottles of water. I have them in my purse. I have them in the car. I have a stock refrigerator, and I'm so happy that my son loves water. He loves it. He'll drink water before he drink anything else. And that's the blessing. I mean, it doesn't have to be water. It could be juice or whatever. We don't drink sodas around here, but yes, whatever you can get your hands on, Gatorade, whatever, drink.
And that is so important. I'm glad you shared that. That's some great feedback as well, Gloria. We have another question from Danielle. She said, is there something we as caregivers can do to make our child feel more comfortable telling us they're hurting or not feeling well? From your perspective of growing up with this, is there something we can do as caregivers? Gloria, you want to go first?
Let's see. You said to make us more comfortable?
Yeah, to make the child more comfortable.
I did a lot of heating pads. I did baths, but for me, I didn't think they worked for me. But does not mean that it may not work for your child. And don't just always think that your child is lazy. We get that from the beginning until today. Just the one thing that you could do, honestly, is rub your child. That's one of the most comforting things that my mom did for me is to rub. I had joints that was hurting, stomach, back. I had multiple places hurting at the same time. It wasn't just one. And so I couldn't walk. I couldn't take my own bath. I couldn't do anything. I had to be carried to the car. listen to them and believe them the first time they tell you, because it's already hard for us to tell you that we're hurting and not feeling well. Believe them. And I know it's hard. There's been 3 o'clock times at 3 o'clock in the morning that my mom had to rush me to the hospital, and I know you hate it. You hate to go to that emergency room. It is the worst thing in the world to go to the ER at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But as a caregiver, as one now, you have to keep a bag. I try to keep a bag because I never know when it comes to my sons if we're gonna have to rush to the hospital. I try to keep stuff out. So just continue to be prepared. Believe your child. Rub your child. Heat helps a lot. Not cold, heat.
That's some good tidbit. Thank you. Thank you. Good information, Gloria. Mario, is there something we as caregivers can do to make our child feel more comfortable in telling us they're hurting or not feeling well?
Yeah, Gloria, I think Gloria was spot on with believing them. I know sometimes, some kids are rambunctious and a couple minutes before they're all over the place, climbing on couches, jumping off, and if, you come to them and they say, Mommy, I don't feel good. You're like, boy, you was just right here just playing just 2 seconds ago. Go sit down. Believe them. Because that little bit of running probably threw them into some kind of crisis. And as boys, we go hard, real hard, and 2 seconds later, I'm laying on the couch. So always listen to them. Pay attention yourself, because we won't come to you a lot, but when we do come, just please just come, let us come and be compassionate and believe them out the gate, and start that process to try to make them feel better. Most of the time, you can see your kid if you're watching them, or your nephew or your nieces if you're caregiving them too. You'll learn what they look like when they're not feeling their best. They might hold an arm, or they may just sit down, and you're like, well, what's wrong? Especially if you have a kid that, like me, I love to play video games, but sometimes I don't feel like picking that up. My wife will say something's wrong with you. You ain't playing the PlayStation today. What is wrong with you? And so you just got to know patterns and things like that. Like Gloria said, though, as far as when they do tell you that something's wrong, like I said before, rubbing is still my main thing. I will take that before I take the pills. That'll put me to sleep before any pain pill or anything. If somebody just rub me until tomorrow. And and I'm laughing, but that's exactly how I am with it. And just tell everybody, that we're not we're not trying to fake for it, or most sickle cell patients do not lie about not feeling well. I've known a couple throughout my travels, and none of the ones that I known ever said, "Man, I'm a fake a crisis to do anything." Right. That's just something that we just don't do because we're so sick of having them. So when we say that we don't feel good, it's good to go ahead and take that as being truthful and try to go ahead and take care of what we got going on.
Gloria, I know you wanted to say something.
Well, I kind of just wanted to hit on what he said as far as like the pain medicine. My mom was afraid. Like I'm in a sickle cell group, and they keep saying that they're afraid to give their child pain medication and stuff like that. The biggest thing that's going to get us over this crisis is pain medication and fluids. That's what's going to get us to feel better. I know you might not, of course, you don't want your child to become an addict or anything. You can still monitor it, but please do not be afraid to give your child his medication or her medication. That is very important, because once you get, if you make it longer, it's going to be longer in the hospital. You need to get on top of that pain immediately.
Mm.
That's what I have to say.
And that's absolutely the truth. I mean, I've heard, his hematologists have said that, you don't want him to be in pain like that. Get ahead of it to take care of the pain. And also, I was about to lose my train of thought, but to get ahead of it and take care of the pain, and we have to understand that whenever there's pain, there's damage occurring. So, got to think about that as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. So, we had a couple of comments, Gloria, on here. Great advice. And Danielle said thank you because she asked the question. So thank you both for answering those questions. You guys are still good? Thumbs up. And everybody's listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us. We have Gloria and Mario here. They both have sickle cell disease, and I wanted them on here to share their stories, to answer some questions, because I feel like, if you're not already inspired, you must not have been listening, because just to give some insight into their journey. And I also wanted to touch on, and Mario or either one of you can talk on this part. In a lot of talks or me listening to other adult warriors, some have mentioned, yeah, the doctor gave my parents or myself an age limit. I won't make it to this age. Have either of you heard that?
Yes, I've heard it my whole life. And I wish they would stop publishing it because it still affects me to this day. Now they have it that we're not, the age limit is 47. I just turned 47 a few months ago. I listened to all of that stuff, and I encourage you not to listen to that. I need to give myself my own advice because I look it up because I want to be here for my child. So I was told I wouldn't make it past a teenager, past 30 or 38 years old. So I've heard that my whole entire life, especially when you're in the 70s and you're hearing that you just have it and they know nothing about the disease. They're like, not going to be here that long. So, and I think that is the worst thing that a doctor could tell anybody.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
go ahead, Mario.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's something that a lot of us, especially being born in the 70s
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, were told. It wasn't a lot out there for anybody to do anything. And so my first pediatrician told, my mom and my dad, and, he'll be lucky to meet 18. She's like, so prepare yourself because he probably won't make it that far. Um, and from that point, my mom quit that pediatrician and found me another one. And from that point, that pediatrician did the most research that I think any man has ever done. And for someone who wasn't really up on it, and he did so much research for me and everything to make sure that I had the right plans, the right hospitals to go to, the ones that were you know up on their blood and everything and their research, and he would send me there. And he told me, he said, I never want you to think about that, but I did. You know, growing up, I did. I said, being 11, 12, 7 more years, and it's,
Mm-hmm.
this crisis, is this it? And when I turned 16, I was like, oh, this is it. I said, this is the one that's going to take me out, and he was right. And but those hospitals saved me, and then I kept on pushing, and I got to 18, and I was still here, and And from that point on, I took every year as a blessing. After that, all of it's bonus. So, and so I'm just going to look at it like that, that I'm just in my bonus phase of life, and I'm just going to keep on going. I try not to think about it, but like I said, every time I get a crisis, it goes right back there. Just for a little bit, it goes right back there, and you think about mortality, and you think about, not being there like your grandma and them was, and what you got to do for your kids now to make sure if something happened tomorrow, they're good to go, because you might not be old. You'll walk them down the aisle or teach them how to shoot basketball or something. You gotta prepare for stuff like that. But while you're here, I just try to keep living and try not to dwell on it every day. And even when I get those little aches and pains in my joints, I try to shake them off and do what I got to do, and try not to look at it as that sentence is on its way. I try to not to think about the Grim Reaper anymore. I just try to make sure my days are bright now. And but yeah, I was told that, and that was something that, thanks to my mama, she tried to erase off my mind, and she did that. So even though it's still around, but she helped me show that I can push through anything. Don't worry, but nobody tell you. Don't get nobody give you no deadline. You make your
own.
So,
absolutely. Gloria, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I did. Like we were just talking about, you think that this is going to be the end. And like I said, everyone told me not to have a child. They told me, well, back in the day, it was like 38. And I got pregnant when I was 38. And I saw it as like a whole new life. But I kind of wrote, I didn't think I was going to make it through childbirth. So I kind of wrote something for me and something for my son, and that mindset is not a good mindset to have. But because it was in my head that people have been telling me that my whole life, that I wasn't going to make it to this and this and this and this milestone, I want to encourage all the kids that have sickle cell disease now to just not look at all these statistics that they have on Google, because it'll make you go crazy. And one thing that I just want to say before I get off, if there's a nurse watching this, I want, by the time we're 18 years old, we're an adult, and at some points we're not treated the same way that we are treated when we were 18 and below. We're treated as, I might be getting off the subject here.
It's okay.
But we're treated as drug seekers, and that's one thing. If I didn't say anything else today, that's one thing that I wanted to say. And it's not that we're drug seekers, it's just the fact that that is what we need in order to get better, in order to go back to our everyday lives.
And I'll tell you right now, we're probably going to have a part 2, because that's another whole set of discussion, and it's important, because you all touched on it. Y'all don't fake. And Gloria, you mentioned you didn't want to go to the ER. The ER isn't a place where our children want to be. It isn't a place where you all want to be. And it isn't a place where the caregivers want to take their children. And Mario mentioned about his advice to caregivers is to believe our children when they say they're in pain, because a lot of times before they lie about being in pain, they're going to not tell the truth about not being in pain, or I'm good, I'm okay. So it starts with us believing our children, because like Gloria mentioned, once they get 18, something changes, and they're not believed, and they are having pain. They're coming there to the ER for help, for relief, to get them through that crisis, to live. because I know, Gloria, you say you're in some sickle cell groups, and all of us have been in different groups, and we've heard of warriors either hesitating to go to the ER or going to the ER, turned around, and they die because that every time they're in a pain crisis or some type of complication, it's a matter of life and death. So again, I don't want to go that far, but we do have a couple more questions before I let y'all go. I know we've been talking for an hour. Let's go back a little bit. Patrick says, when we were talking about the age, he said, I have a friend that has two brothers with sickle cell. One is 72 and the other is 78. He also has a sister that has sickle cell that is 65.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, sickle cell warriors, and I'm sorry, Gloria, but sickle cell warriors, and I'm glad, and Gloria, you may be able to comment on this too, because our sons have the same hematologist. And Dr. Carla talks about them living well, thriving with this illness. She encouraged us and them to do what they need to do to live and thrive and to be little boys, to be their age. There's no deadline. And I can say that about our pediatrician as well.
Exactly. I think Dr. Carla Roberts is one of the best hematologists I could have ever had my son go to. Also, his pediatrician is amazing. Dr. Guy Castles is his pediatrician. And every time I bring my son, or every time I call and say that my son is sick, he calls the hospital first. Hey, such and such is coming. You have a bed. Like, he is treated so well, you know, when it comes to doctors and pediatricians. And like I say, Dr. Carla Roberts, I mentioned one time, I said, well, you know, Garrison, you did so good, I'm gonna take you to McDonald's. And she was like, nope, McDonald's isn't good. So she does want you to be she wants you to be healthy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, y'all, we're gonna read one more question, because Mario, Gloria, I heard y'all agree to a part 2. So I heard that. I did. But we're gonna, wrap this up, because we know we gotta eat dinner and get ready for tomorrow. But Danielle has a question. Have your crisis gotten less painful as an adult? She said her son asked if it will get better as he gets older, and I don't honestly know how to answer that. That's a good question, Danielle. Who wants to go first?
That is a very, very good question. For me to answer, yes, my crisis got better, honestly. I had surgery when I was 18. I was sick crazy up until I was 18. I had surgery at 18. I don't think I went I went for like a 10-year bout. I went almost 10 years, and I would go to the hospital maybe once a year, and that was to the ER, stay there for like 8 hours, get my medicine and my hydration, and I would go home. And that happened for almost 10 years. So, you know, my mom prayed a lot. So, you know, she felt like I was, healed from it or whatever. But I went 10 years, and it wasn't until I actually had my son, until, you know, when you have a baby, you give your child a whole bunch of your nutrients and stuff like that. So after I had him is when I became to be more, a little bit more sick than before, because before, you know, I didn't even have a doctor until I got pregnant with him. That's how good I was doing. I wasn't taking medicine every day. I didn't have a doctor. You know, I just was doing very, very well. So I'm not gonna say it's for everybody, but for me, I went over 10 years and I didn't have a hospital stay.
Mario?
I would say yes. This is something that I've been thinking about since a long time. It seemed, and I don't know if I when I turned 18, I came down here to go to school, and and during that time, I also ate a lot of Southern food because I weighed probably like 120 pounds when I got here.
What?
Um, Skinny. My aunt, my aunts them fattened me up a lot when I got here, and I didn't know if it was me in the weight gain or not, but it seemed like my crisis has eased up some, and and throughout my years, I might have had like one a year or something, something like that, and the older I got, the more and once you learn to maintain your triggers and not live the life of a child like you're supposed to, and realize, okay, man, I'm not gonna play ball with y'all today. I not feeling all that well. You got to learn how to, maintain yourself, but it does get a little better. Um, One thing I will say is a problem that I'm having now is that my joints are deteriorating. I had to get a total replacement shoulder on my right side back in 2017, and that's due to the sickle cell erosion and stuff like that. Um, Pretty soon it'll be the left shoulder, and and I have to go back again. And I don't know about my knees or anything yet, but I was told that all that could go down at one time. So it's just things like that. But as far as being sick a lot, I'm not sick a lot anymore. So I'm hoping that when he gets to older age and and learns more about himself and everything or herself, um, you know the crises will ease up on him some, and but you got to make sure that you're following all the procedures and stuff that you need to, like hydrations and and if you're taking your meds, make sure you're taking them regularly because the stuff that they give you kind of helps you a lot, and I'm now on I wasn't on medicine back then, but I'm on some now, and and it helped my hemoglobin a whole lot, and so so I'm glad that it's around for me to take. But yeah, so just you just keep on pushing through till you get to an older age, and it'll change for you, just a little bit, but you just got to fight your fight until you start winning it. That's all.
Thank y'all for that. That's really encouraging. And you know, we just want our kids to be okay, to grow up. So, I mean, you see how important it is for you to share your story. You're encouraging, you're inspiring caregivers. You're helping us to do better, to be better advocates. So we appreciate you taking time out just to share. And just going to click on some comments here. We got the praise hand from Forgiving Hearts. We appreciate you all every Tuesday for listening to us and participating and engaging with us. Visha says part two is definitely needed. That was so powerful. So we need a part two. We already got an agenda of topics for part two. So, because I know Danielle has already asked another question. How was the transition from childhood to adulthood as far as medical care? That could be in part two, talking about that transition, because that's huge. That is huge. And that's something that I know us with young ones are, well, Braden is in that period now, beginning to transition, and so that's very touchy and scary somewhat part, but I'm so glad to have you guys in my village to help us. Forgiving Hearts also said great points. We've had heard that point about being seen as drug seekers with age. Thank you both for your transparency. We do appreciate that, and we're going to dig deeper in that as well, because I think these are things people need to know, and more people know, the more they understand, um, and not believe all the stereotypes or what they hear. Thank you, Miss Donald, for listening. She said, absolutely no deadline. Great advice, Mario. Patients do not want to go to the ER. So true, Gloria. So they're listening to you guys commenting and sharing your story. You both did, they did agree. um, Yeah, Visha seconded that y'all did agree to a part two. She heard it too. So Danielle said, yes, definitely we need a part two. And she also said, thank you so much for the advice. And again, part two is definitely needed. So we've already determined there will be a part two. I will be communicating with you all to nail down that Tuesday to come back. But seriously, this is so important. And I can't thank you enough again for sharing. I know it's not always easy to share, but it's so, so needed. Um, it's needed for us listeners, for the community. It's needed for those potential blood donors. It's needed. I think it helps empower our warriors too, to be able to help and to assist and to talk about it as well, to engage with us, to allow us to be your support system as well. Um, so we're going to end. Mario, do you want to end with some words of wisdom or something just to close off?
Thank you for having me. And to the caregivers, that's something that that's one thing that I haven't experienced, but I've seen from the eyes, of my mama and everyone else. It can be tough on you guys too, a lot. So you just got to make sure that you keep yourself up as well. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can take care of your little one, your high school one. Depending on what age it is, but you got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well. Um, I done seen my mom kind of, tire herself out because of me. And that's something, that, and another thing that we see. So we try not to bug you, so you got to make sure that, we don't see it as sickle cell patients, even though you got to do what you got to do to take care of us. Because it affects us, and we try to make sure that we love you guys too. So, we want to make sure that you all are okay. And for the sickle cell patients, you just got to be strong, like Brenda Green here, and Braden, just be strong and get through it. And it's not forever. It feels like it, especially when it's every other week, but it's not forever. You will have better days and you will have better months, and you just got to keep on pushing through. So when you had that crisis, deal with that, and just keep on, looking for better times and trying to get past it and getting better. That's all I got to say.
That was a lot. And thank you, Mario. Thank you for that. Gloria?
I would say this, as being a warrior and a caregiver, some of the best advice that I've gotten was from my mom, is if I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of my son. So I definitely try to make sure that I do what I'm supposed to do to be here for him and take care of him as much as possible. But that is some of the best advice that I could probably give anybody, whether your child has sickle cell or not.
Oh, absolutely. That was powerful. Thank you guys. I know I've said thank you like a million times, and I would say it a million more times. I appreciate you so much. And for those of you who are listening, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining in. I'm sure you were inspired. Um, and if you have any further questions, you can definitely leave it in the comments. Mario and Gloria will see them, and we'll be sure to get you some answers. But we will have a part two. So stay tuned for me to announce that. And those of you listening on the replay, thank you as well. We appreciate you. We appreciate you taking time out. And some of the things you can do is listen to our warrior stories. You can become a regular blood donor. You can be able to support and then share what you've learned to your friends. So we feel the more that our community is educated about sickle cell, the easier the journey can be, with more people understanding and knowing some things about it. Gloria, did you have something else you want to share?
I just want to say I'm gonna start sharing my journey and Garrison's journey on Instagram. So our handle is at 2GNAPOD. 2G in a pod. That's our name. Because I'm gonna just try to go through. I've taken videos over the years. I've gotten pictures over the years of the things that he's had in the hospital and the treatments that they did for him for those things that he had going on for dealing with sickle cell. So I'm gonna start posting some of those because his first time going in was like 10 months old. So starting at 10 months, I want to kind of like go up until now, so other mothers of warriors can see, transition.
Thank you for that, Gloria. And we'll be sure to share whatever you share as well. And we're stronger together. It's really been a blessing to be able to work alongside Mario to help advocate for our warriors and to work alongside you, Gloria, as well, to be a stronger advocate. So again, we appreciate both of you. And we thank everybody again for listening. And we bid you a good night.